Poland is secretly planning to launch full-scale war with Russia. There's been the US, France, Germany, Britain, and Russia at the world's military front, but now there's a new player. Perhaps no nation in the world is as cursed as Poland, which has historically served as a middle ground for major European armies to batter each other to pieces. The same Poland has had enough of being messed around with. Are we to be scared, ready, or both? The invasion of Ukraine by Russia has jolted Europe into a reassessment of its military power. For decades, European nations relied heavily on the United States for military support, while often criticizing US militarization. However, the conflict in Ukraine has reminded European powers of the military threat in their vicinity, especially since the distance from American intervention is a wide gap. Considering that recently Poland has not been joking about trying to pull off a modern military revival, the nation has endured profound military defeats, occupation, partitioning, and absorption into the Soviet Union, and also at the hands of both Nazi Germany, especially the Soviet authority in Poland during the Cold War. The Poles wanted freedom and eventually took it, or are still taking it. With being fed up of being an easy target in Europe, they're gearing up to have the toughest military around. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki even said on the eve of its Independence Day in 2022 that their army should be so strong that nobody would dare mess with them just because of how powerful they are. The same Poland in 1991 made a big deal of the Soviet Union letting it have its first democratic election since 1920. In 1993, Soviet troops finally left the country, probably feeling a bit intimidated, and then, in 1999, Poland became an official member of NATO, and 5 years later it joined the EU. Even before it joined the EU, Poland sent 2,000 soldiers to participate in the 2003 invasion of Iraq, then the coalition's fourth largest military contribution behind the US, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Poland maintained its presence in Iraq for years, participating in an even leading multinational division, Central South, a NATO unit responsible for an entire occupation zone as part of multinational force Iraq. Their deployment lasted until 2008, when Polish troops were finally withdrawn from the country. But Iraq was just a beginning. In Afghanistan, too, Poland signaled its solidarity with the West. For the duration of the 20-year forever war, the Poles proved themselves reliable, trustworthy partners, cycling through more than 33,000 personnel in what constituted the largest peacekeeping mission in Poland's military history. So Poland teaming up with the West isn't new. All seemed to finally be at peace since this invasion of Iraq until the war started in Ukraine. Europe wasn't ready, even though it's way richer than Russia altogether. But still, Europe can't match up to Russia's supply power in Ukraine. Poland had to step up since it's been waiting for this moment all along. In a speech to the United States General Assembly in September of 2022, the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, warned everyone that Russia's war on Ukraine isn't just a local problem. He said it could lead to a big, global conflict. While the president was giving the speech, he was out there buying loads of new military stuff. And trust me, they had every reason to do so. There's this concept called a security dilemma that refers to a scenario where you are geared up and ready to run or strike when you see danger coming, even if it's not in your direction. Now, Britain's military strength has been going downhill for ages. It's only half the size it was at the end of the Cold War. Being an island, Britain's main thing is being able to send troops far away. But during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, people started calling the British military the borrowers because they were always trading for what they didn't have. Even Europe and all of its rich history is trying to get it together as one force. The US, which has the strongest military globally now, seems to be miles away. Poland realizes it can't just rely on its European buddies for defense because it's pretty vulnerable without any natural barriers or even sophisticated military help. People often forget that though Poland got hit hard by the Axis in World War II, its exiled armies fought bravely alongside the Allies as pilots, sailors, and soldiers. Now, Poland isn't just talking big. They've been ordering loads of weapons, showing they mean business. They've even begun bumping up their defense spending from 2.4% of their GDP to a massive 5%. which is even more than what the United States spends. This makes other NATO countries look bad, as most of them struggle to meet even the minimum 2% requirement set by the alliance. Its serious long-term commitment to its military is another thing it's doing differently. They're aiming to double the army size by 2035, from 150,000 to 300,000 troops, especially since the population doubled after the Cold War. Only the US has a military as large as Poland's plans. Now, to equip all of those troops, Poland has been going on a shopping spree. They struck a deal with the US, sending 240 Soviet tanks to Ukraine in exchange for 250 Abrams tanks, a big upgrade for their army. But Poland didn't stop there. They watched the fighting in Ukraine closely and decided they needed more firepower. They made a direct bid to Lockheed Martin for around 500 HIMARS units. That would have put Poland on par with the US in terms of HIMARS operators. Unfortunately, the US had already made its own procurement. The US was indeed replacing units sent to Ukraine and increasing its stock for potential future needs. With Lockheed Martin's guided rocket artillery in the spotlight due to the war in Ukraine, it's no wonder other countries were eager to get their hands on it, even if the US was prioritizing its own needs. Since the US had no more units available, Poland looked elsewhere for its guided rocket artillery requirements. They turned to South Korea and ordered 288 Chunmoo platforms, similar to HIMARS but more robust. The Chunmoo can carry twice as many rockets. While the US had a lot of rockets with HIMARS, it sacrifices mobility. However, Poland believes it's worth it, especially with a significant standing army in development. With major investments across various military areas, including the Air Force, Poland also signed a deal for 32 F-35s. Poland surprised many by turning once again to South Korea for multiple military acquisitions, sourcing most of its new equipment from the country. Among these purchases are 48 F-A-50s, which means the US will now have competition in acquiring more than one F-35. These F-A-50s are intended to replace Poland's aging MiG fleet, which will complement its existing inventory of F-16s and soon-to-be F-35s. While Poland's Air Force won't be massive anytime soon, it's certainly becoming a significant deterrent to Russia if it ever considers breaching Polish airspace. In addition to bolstering its traditional tube artillery, Poland has acquired 648 K9 howitzers from South Korea. This move positions Poland as one of the largest artillery powers in Europe, second perhaps only to Russia, especially with its purchase of 288 Chunmoo MLRSs. However, the most contentious item on Poland's shopping list is the acquisition of nearly 1,000 K2 main battle tanks. Much to the annoyance of its neighbor, the K2 tank, originally designed by South Korea, is believed to be a highly capable modern tank. However, its true capabilities remain undisclosed, as the tank has never been tested in combat, and the South Korean government has kept classified data under wraps. While many observers have confidence in the K2, Russian defense analysts are puzzled by its design decision to forego tank launching capabilities. How well the K2 will perform in Europe remains uncertain, and hopefully we won't have to find out. Poland's spending spree in South Korea has forged a strong bond between the two countries, much to the annoyance of other European nations. Despite being home to many renowned tank manufacturers, Europe is puzzled by Poland's decision to buy tanks from a country halfway across the globe, especially considering the logistical challenges and dependence on easily disrupted supply routes spanning the planet. The decision to buy tanks from South Korea makes a lot of sense, especially if South Korea plans to expand into the global arms market and establish maintenance facilities in Poland itself. This arrangement would secure Poland's logistics needs while providing South Korea access to the European arms market, a mutually beneficial deal. Germany has long been a key ally of the United States in Europe, but its recent actions have raised concerns. In contrast, Poland has emerged as the primary logistics hub for the American military in Europe. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Poland has become America's most crucial European ally, a sentiment echoed by US officials. So it's now Russia versus Poland and the Ukraine war. Given its proximity to Russia, and notwithstanding, Poland has been vocal in calling for European support for Ukraine and has welcomed Ukrainian refugees with open arms. Its airfields and transport networks have been readily available for U.S. and other foreign aid efforts in Ukraine. When a Ukrainian air defense missile tragically landed in Poland, resulting in casualties, Poland squarely blamed Russia for instigating the circumstances that led to the missile launch in the first place. However, what's truly striking is the remarkable speed at which Poland has fortified its defenses and its willingness to collaborate with the United States in arming Ukraine. With its central location in Europe and the formidable military capabilities it's set to possess, Poland is poised to surpass other European powers, especially Russia. One thing is clear: Poland isn't sitting idly by. Instead, it's actively working to deter Russian aggression, or rather take it by surprise, through the enhancement and equipment of its armed forces to ensure the highest likelihood of military success. So, they're giving the hint that you'd want them to be on your side militarily, but maybe you shouldn't take their word for it.